Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my reaction video to Michael Knowles versus 25 LGBTers.
Hi.
Hello.
Blossom. She, her, hers powerhouse.
Blossom Powerhouse, lovely to meet you.
Yes.
I swear in the previous sport they weren't playing Dungeons and Dragons yet. I do understand that you're trying to assert your gender identity. But I'm not really for pronouns and yada yada. I'm not gonna say, hey, I'm she, her. When people see me, they'll know I'm she, her. Honestly, it felt like an insult to my intelligence. I see you're trying to pass. You have my respect.
I want to know your ideology around transgenderism, something that doesn't exist. It just sounds more like conservative propaganda. So I kind of want to know a little bit more about what you're trying to communicate.
Okay, I think for all of history everywhere, people have understood the human person to have something to do with his body.
Okay, that's nice to say of you, but we only have like 5,000 years of documented history. Usually because of religion. I want you to imagine that we're stuck in a cave, and we're all just speculating of what's outside there in that world, beyond ours. Speculating how the fire might look like, how the grass might look like. Yet all we are able to see are shadows on the wall, illuminated by the sun. Only a small crack in the ceiling somewhere, which allows heavens to breach through, crafting our preconceived notions.
And I see in the transgender ideology a kind of Gnosticism that says that you could look like a man, you could have a man's genetics, you could have a man's genitals, you could have a man's everything. But if you feel on some deep level that you're really a woman, then you are really a woman. And I don't think that's true. And I think that the social effects of that are really bad because it leads to the depriving women of their legitimate rights. In some cases, it leads to rapes, notably in the last few years.
So it's automatically guilt by association? Though I do agree that you have to be on some sort of like term of hormones before being able to like get in the female restroom. I used to go to the disabled restroom, by the way, and that was a small effort. Like, whatever. Also, I mentioned something about the Roman Catholic Church before in the previous part. So if you want to check that out, feel free to do so, please.
And it also leads to women losing their sports competitions and their scholarships, and it's just disordered and false. And it also leads to more people adopting this identity.
No, it's because the media likes to focus on that. Because there's a few people who take advantage of this because they're so mediocre. I don't care about sports. Like, not competitive. But anyways, that's why it's trans woman, not woman. I would definitely recommend, for those who do not pass, to check out your environment and see how socially people react, you know? That mannerism, psychologically, just look at their eyes and whatever. It's amazingly astounding how much you can read in people. Anyways, to make a long video short, Michael, he doesn't have to deal with these issues, so obviously it's not his fight. He does like to worm himself in like a cockroach, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he is experiencing dysphoria. Like, at all. So we have a dilemma. It's either transgenderism is true, or religion is true, or they're both true. And if being trans is a bad thing, then I suppose God is the ultimate troll, which also would ruin a lot of credibility. I mean, I'm more spiritual myself. I'm not really of the organized religion. But you know that's a lie because I already mentioned so many facts that you know I have a deep underlying understanding of most of them.
In 2021,
excuse me, do not interrupt a black
well,
trans woman
I'm just trying to correct you. Well, I would never interrupt a black woman.
No, thank you.
Here's
the thing about me as a black trans woman.
Oh God, please don't. Just stop. I hate identity politics. It's about my identity, not my ideas. I don't think she knows how dumb she makes us look. Not just dumb, also selfish. What does your identity have to do with anything? That's a typical cult mindset right there. Being praised for your appearance while not actually having any credit for original ideas or perceptions. Anyways, as for identifying individuals go, I think I missed that point earlier, but it went something like this. When you identify as trans, more people will adopt the identity. But the same can be said with religion. How about you just let it be natural selection? It's almost like your prime directive in life is having kids. When my father was born, there were 3 billion people on this planet. Now it's 8. The hormone blockers might be more reversible than HRT, but let's be honest. When people take HRT, they're adults. And if people are mentally handicapped, I get why people question that. But don't you go calling me mentally handicapped. To be honest, cell phones are a big experiment. Everything is a big experiment, and it's all a road for like making life better and easier. Then there is also a roadblock. Some might like to call it capitalism, but I call it unregulated capitalism, where loopholes were implemented by the politicians to self-enrich. May the end goal be for themselves or for some sort of boss they're working for. Personally, I'm against abortion. Doesn't mean that everyone else has to be. If it is a sin, they will burn for it. Besides, there are plenty of unself-aware entities walking around who are like, my body, my choice. And then when there's like a vaccine crapped out by the government, it's like, you better get that vaxxed or I ain't gonna date you. But my rant about the pharmaceutical complex in a different video, so stay tuned and subscribe. Cause I'll make it eventually.
Anything. I'm just stating facts plainly.
I have lived experience. You don't, and you never will. But I do have a question
I have
for
lived
you.
experience.
What if
I wonder if Michael is so socially self-unaware, just like many men, or that he's just like missing the point on purpose and socially manipulating, because some people are just born with dysphoria. I think he mentioned the gay gene in this video as well. Why can't there be a trans gene? The point is, living with experience refers to living with experience of having gender dysphoria in such a manner that you just wanna end yourself looking in the mirror. That you feel like an alien in your own physical being. I do feel the spark of the creator within me, but here's the thing about like that. I am not going out of my way to tell people how to live their life. I'm not gonna play God. You know, pride is a sin. I put in a lot of effort. I don't like being in public places at all. Actually, I never did. And I passed well enough to not make any fuss, so that's good. I actually passed so well that if I went to a male restroom, there would be sexual harassment and I wouldn't be the one doing it.
What if one of your kids came out as trans? How would you
God
react
forbid.
to that?
I mean, I would obviously love my children, and I
Okay.
would try to do what's best for my children. And the best thing that I could do to be respectful and also to be conducive to their flourishing is to tell them the truth, which is that they're not really girls.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on, don't get a heart attack. First of all, that chance is really small and slight and insignificant, honestly. But if that were to happen, if they are adults, they can make their own choices without their dad being on their neck all the time. And I know, some have more dysphoria than others, and sometimes it's like really, really deep ingrained without like their own choice of action. But let me tell you this as well. I did interview multiple individuals about this before. There are English subtitled videos available of me questioning someone about like why children become trans. And it's just like religious indoctrination, state-enforced indoctrination, looking at you CNN. But anyways, to look at my broader conclusion here, I do not think it is healthy to enforce the idea of transgenderism when kids are like beyond the double digits, you know. Maybe if they're teens, later teens, but you're not gonna stop exposure to transgenderism unless you're gonna apply really bad censors. But anyways, I don't think transgenderism has a place in the curriculum. And I think it's okay to try to give children a little bit of stability while they're young, okay? And a sort of identity, a fundamental identity that they know they are, instead of making them question everything. I also believe that religion doesn't have any place in the curriculum as well. If you asked me a few years back, I'd say, yeah, that's fine. I mean, people can believe what they want to, but this will also be used against you if Islamic schools, for example, start opening and they use Hijra to like colonize your country and subvert the circular system within it. And that, kids, is basically the history of the Middle East from the last 90 years. Especially note the Red-Green alliance in Iran. Anyways, I'm not saying that schools shouldn't be religious, but I definitely think that there should be non-religious schools as well. And despite of me rarely praying, I still have this way to honor my creator, who is part of me and I am part of them. That's how I see it. And I spread my ideas and I spread my philosophies because there's a calling in my heart that says I am here to make a difference.
To be respectful and also to be conducive to their flourishing is to tell them the truth, which is that they're not really girls.
Well, flourishing obviously depends on the environment, and obviously if you don't cast a ray of sunshine behind like their ideas, then obviously it's not ideal for their flourishing. Then the most ideal thing for their flourishing is to fall in line with your behavioral patterns and expectations. Obviously it's also going to be the direct environment which plays a role in their development. Now, I'm not gonna say there aren't homosexuals out there who will hate you for being straight, and that's absolutely abysmal. Also, to be fully in line with this pattern of thinking that I absorb here, if your former truth is the only truth, why are there so many religions? And why can't people exist in the way they want to? I'm a gosh darn adult. Did you know that in the Philippines they use this medicine named Bavaria marivica, originating from a plant, which feminizes the male body?
A false view of reality and claims of rights, so-called rights, from confused men that infringe on the legitimate rights of women, not just in bathrooms.
I mean, honestly, I'm not gonna do any competitive sports. I'm willing to make that trade, obviously. Duh. But in this video, he named 2 examples of 2 trends, little whatever, on the female restroom, and holds everyone to that standard. I think it's more important to look at the mental health of each specific case. There's a whole system, a whole medical system that's ready to benefit off of their insecurities. Anyways, Dutch insurance is a Ponzi scheme, so I was like, you know what? I pay this amount of money every single month. It's a big L. And if I ever want to get something, then it's either not gonna be covered or it's gonna be in my own risk, which is 385 euros. You also have to pay that. So, yeah. Taking hormone treatment was kind of like, it's not actually like unaffordable, I guess, but it's not like I'm taking anything away from the taxpayer. Anyway, to make a long video short, that's what I said 10 minutes ago, didn't I? But yeah, I would really be careful with individuals who just want to fit into the crowd, because there's plenty enough of those, and I doubt they're actually gonna ask one day who they truly are inside of their heart.
Usually.
Not all the time, but usually,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So if you can only usually tell, what are you going to do to prevent it?
Well, look,
Because-
a man who doesn't even identify as trans, a man who's just a nefarious fellow, could sneak into a woman's bathroom,
Exactly.
and so we have to
and that's why I
enforce
brought
the
up
law.
93%, because
Right, that's-
what are you doing about men?
We should enforce the law against people who break it.
Yeah, so if it's a normal dude who doesn't identify as trans at all, just throw away the key. Just throw away the key, man. That's all I have to say. Especially if they haven't been on hormones for at least a year. Because the media will caricaturize anyone, and think about this, anyone who identifies as trans and has any sort of like negative ideas in their head which are harmful to others. You will make us look bad. That's just like being black and committing a crime. You're making your people look bad. Why would you do that? Use a freaking brain cell.
Literally putting a president who is a felon who has sexually assaulted people. What does that say to men?
Yeah, no one really buys that.
I bought it.
No one really buys that.
Oh, there's definitely people who buy it. The entirety of Europe, for example, or like 90% of it. The mainstream, you know, because of the media having pushed this agenda, literally copywriting from the left, from America, from the reliable sources, quote unquote, such as CNN. But we have a larger dilemma. The left is really trying to keep their little, like, darlings alive, such as the LGBT. And sometimes it really feels like they are pro everything that can't fit through the same door, but it's all a big contradiction if you look at it closely. Anyways, here's the strategy. They use your emotions against you. A non-compromised government wouldn't just let the borders wide open and let millions of people come in illegally. Like when you're talking about election fraud, what's fraud? That's obviously gonna be importing millions of people who are gonna vote for you because you enable them to be there. Countries, in principle, need that stability. If you're gonna think that all cultures are the same, then you're tripping balls.
Says that he didn't do it, whatever, but you're not believing the woman.
Yeah, the claim you're
who said
making
that
about
he did.
Trump obviously was not criminally prosecuted. It comes from about 30 years ago from a woman who previously said that she likes rape and finds it, scintillating.
Gross.
And I know it's terrible.
Yes, but it might be a symptom of something bigger. Like, for example, forced marriages, arranged marriages. You have to marry before ... Like, that's been pretty big throughout history. So just because it's been a pattern of recognition throughout history doesn't mean it's like a positive thing. But here's a hypothesis maybe you can get behind. Rape fetishes, as well as transgenderism in some cases, are trauma responses that are created because of stereotypical behavioral patterns that should be followed in a gendered society. which obviously has been forced upon us, kind of low-key, but then again, each element has a different function within a group. That might not just be generational, but also linked to the DNA, like some researchers believe that like memory is linked to DNA, and that like speaks to the body. It would explain evolution theory very clearly. So it makes perfect sense that transgenderism isn't just like something natural, but also a trauma response to like these gendered behavioral patterns and like norms that are like set for us.
You ask, why don't we just believe all women all the time? Well, I do think we should give a lot of deference to people who are accusing others of crimes. And so, we have courts of law to adjudicate these claims.
Yes, and nobody knows how often they are corrupted. How about we believe based on facts and evidence? And that's ironic because I'm a transsexual and Michael says all this time, believe facts and evidence, believe facts and evidence. It is a fact that I'm a transsexual. Also, I love the rage bait. Michael had some like statements that were like LGBTQ is like a contagion. Yes, but if it's like a harmful contagion, like a cancer cell, then it usually reproduces. Wink wink, just looking at nature. Anyways, there was a different statement as well. People kind of reacted hostile, like I wonder why. Because it was the quote, transgenderism should be eradicated from the public, which can be interpreted in the sense of, I'm gonna have you eradicated. But listen closely guys, this is also a statement. You are going to die. And then like 5 seconds later, I'd be like, cause you ain't living forever, girl, unless you're like my Jesus. See, context matters. And I feel there's been a lot of mental gymnastics over here. How about you let adults do what they want to do? I mean, China has banned religion, and in Christian books it stands that the CCP is like a holy entity in there as well. So who says to me that that is not the true version of the Bible? That the CCP should be worshipped?
It's allowing men to be treated for the purposes of the law as women. It's men taking 900 sports trophies from women in recent years.
And they didn't take 900.
They took 900. There's a report just came out from the United Nations, actually. 890 trophies and medals across 600 women who were competitors, across 29 different sports and 400 competitions. That came out like yesterday.
And they deserved them.
It didn't happen, and they deserve them. Okay, that is the logic I hear from the pro-trans crowd. Yeah.
Maybe it is because I feel treated like Donald Trump is. Being smeared with false allegations constantaneously because I belong to some sort of like group. No, seriously, think about how sick that is. I'm pretty sure that Michael, of all people, should know that certain elements in the media are elevated to create the division. With my understanding of the world, I'm being very generous and passive, by the way. I could even argue that religion takes away the element of free will.
Like if I want to eradicate poverty, that doesn't mean I want to kill all the poor people.
I'm not saying
quite the opposite,
I'm not saying that you want to kill. I'm asking you what your plan, like what in the best case scenario, how are you going to get people to stop being trans?
I think we're going to tell boys that they're not girls,
so we're
that they're
going to
boys.
tell boys that they're not girls, and they're going to listen.
Scientifically, for most of history, we lived in little clay tents. It takes a special type of arrogance to believe that your version of religion and religious aspects is the one truth. Historically, humanity has always been enslaved, tried to be a slave of something. It's why people reach for the newest thing on the bandwagon. It's why people reach for a video game, so a destiny is written for them and they don't need to write their own. It's why people always search for acknowledgement of others. It's why people always search for someone who can remind them of the traumas they experienced within their youth.
Hating trans identities, sure. Trans people is really what you're referring to.
It's not what I'm referring to.
Sure. So I want to chat about where we've also seen that before. Can you guess?
Where? I'm going to guess you're going to say something about Hitler.
Do you want to know the first book burning that the Nazi Party did?
Honestly, I'm going to cut her off right now because I don't feel like listening to an NPC.
My point
Plato
is,
advocated book burning.
fascism as a whole really loves to hone in on small portions of society. And right now, I'm sorry, I'm going to outright call you a fascist.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm going to react to that. Once upon a time, there was a Chinese civil war. There were over 6 million casualties. However, the political purges which followed had actually over 8 million people being put in gulags, which passed away, by the way. And then we had the Great Famine. The Great Famine caused because those who were able to create food, to work with the soil and instruments, they were all gone. So in the Great Famine, 40 million people passed away. This was all under communist rule. Why did I add that? Because I see that some anti-Nazis are communists and you're nothing better, bro. So the moral of the story is, not everyone thinks alike, not in the same community, yada yada. And there's a reason why only potheads smoke weed. Because they feel attracted to that drug. I feel attracted to the food that I feel like eating because my body needs it. I don't feel like having someone dictate that over me. I've dated people who were in their 30s and only discovered in their 30s what their sexual orientation was because they never saw people like that before. And usually when they did, it was an archetype which wasn't actually such a positive role model or stereotype. I also appreciate the very fine people argument being in here because I knew the mainstream media was lying. I looked at the source video, and Trump never sympathized with white supremacists. He was just like, well, there's people with good intentions on both sides, and not all of them are supremacists. That's the same media over there that's putting words in my mouth, that's trying to illuminate how I, as a wheel in a community, should be. Go to hell.
Here's the line that the media has cited for years.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
It certainly sounds bad when that's all you know about the president's remarks.
Yeah, well, imagine an illness. There's plenty of them who carry the same symptoms. Yet elementary-wise, these groups have formed from independent individuals, may their presence not have been purchased. And this particular incident was about a statue of a historical figure that was about to be removed. The figure in question being Robert E. Lee, who was a Confederate Army general. So some people are raised blind and appreciate the army a lot, but blah blah blah, static noise, whatever. But here's the transcript, thanks PragerU, on that particular speech, and honestly, someone saying there are good people on both sides is the most normal mediocre thing that one can do to keep the peace. And if the media tries to spin that, incite violence, instigate violence, getting people so unhinged that they'll remove Trump from office himself, that's a sign right there of a compromised media system. Why do people go to school longer and longer, yet are more and more naive? Go ahead, import those third worlders. They can do the jobs that your people don't want to do. Making a class system much? Anyways, I went to school for 20 years, and I'm a freaking cleaner now. Great. Oh well, at least I know how to swipe the floor with y'all. Okay, now a nice little final message. Journalists always constantly push back on Trump, but the hardest question that Biden gets is how many scoops of ice cream did you get? Or what's the flavor? You know, that's almost as difficult as the first question of my final test. Are you a boy or a girl?